Over the past year, students in our classrooms and in our programs have exercised leadership to make our world a better place. However, one need was consistent through the work of many of our groups, and this theme was hunger. Many of our students are recognizing hunger and its prevalence in our communities and around the world, and they are making a mark.
Hands On Kansas State is a volunteer action center for not only the Manhattan community, but also for K-State campus. One of our biggest missions is to connect not only the community with K-State students, but also get K-State students giving back to Manhattan community. So one particularly enlightening moment came when we talked with one of our nonprofit partners. He's the minister at a local church, and they typically do a food distribution event, and he had talked about how it was kind of stretching them a little bit thin. They just didn't have the volunteer base to make that happen, but that the need was still really relevant. It was part of our 9/11 Day of Service. It was part of a hunger weekend kind of thing we did with that sort of things. There were 3 events all together that were all hunger related, but the food distribution was kind of the culmination of all 3. The one that everybody kind of got excited for and was the bigger, flashier one out at the football stadium. We got good feedback not only from the community but also from K-State students. They wanted to know, how can I get involved with this again? How can I come back? I'm telling my friends about it, but when are you going to do it again? So we kind of spun our wheels and we talked to harvesters, and they were on board with trying to make this an ongoing thing.
NELSA is the Nonprofit Student Leadership Association, and we're the student group for the nonprofit minor, and our main goal is to offer students hands-on experiences, networking opportunities, and to get those nonprofit skills that you can get outside of the classroom. So we're really offering an addition and a value added to the program. Hunger is really prevalent, even though we are here in Kansas, it is still an issue here in Manhattan. We ended up hosting a food packaging event that was co-sponsored by Outreach Inc., and all the proceeds ended up going to the Flint Hills Bread Basket.
That we've been working on a lot this year in Fasteners is actually trying to discover more about what our purpose is, and one of those goals that we came up with is being more service oriented. And so I looked into working with alternative breaks and finding an opportunity for us to be involved with, and harvesters was one of them. And I've always personally been interested in hunger issues nationally or globally, so I thought this would be a really fun opportunity for us. I was especially interested in, as I mentioned earlier, the education part of it, how they've been going into classrooms, or they have a classroom at their facility to bring younger students in, grade school students, to explain to them how to eat healthy and how to eat on a budget.
Here, which was my second year, we added St. Mary's Food Kitchen, and that experience added just a whole nother level to the alternative break. We didn't realize that there was actually St. Jude connection through that. The coordinator for the soup kitchen, his son is a St. Jude patient. So that was really interesting to just show up and have that just everywhere. But the soup kitchen is definitely something that I'm so glad we added. it is just such a different experience to be there. I think that hunger affects more people than, well, at least more people than I thought, more people than I think the general majority who have food on their table every night think about. There was one man who we were talking to, and he didn't give us tons of details, but he just told us that he used to have a house, he had a family, he had a wife, he had 2 cars, and now he's at the soup kitchen every morning because that's the only meal that he's guaranteed to have.
The Hunger Summit is a weekend, a conference where universities from all over the country come to really focus on hunger, focus on sustainable solutions for hunger. And so it's really a great opportunity for those of us to meet who are of the same age, who are kind of at the same stage in our life, to really focus in on how we as young adults can sort of tackle this issue. But also we have the advisors there, we have speakers there, we have other resources to utilize, and so it's not kind of our own, we're really not on our own, I guess, to focus on an issue that's really this large. My experience was really one that's kind of hard to put into words. I think just being able to collaborate with those people who are your own age but still have sort of the same passion for this issue was really encouraging. I think oftentimes at this age we're kind of like, oh my goodness, this is such a big issue, how are we ever going to tackle something this great? But just to take a couple days and realize that there are people who are working for the same issues that you are and are as passionate, it really was a time of encouragement and also just excitement, because everyone was so excited about the potential to really focus in on this issue.
If you have the financial opportunity to give, definitely make that a priority. If you don't, definitely get on board with your time, but also be an advocate for the hungry. Don't just let this be something that kind of sits in the back of your head and then you forget about it a couple weeks later. Really make it something you get passionate about. Share on social media, share with your friends, but share that passion.
Hunger takes on lots of different forms. It's not just starving kids in Africa, but it could be a student sitting next to you in class, or an elementary kid, or even someone who you're working next to that doesn't even look like they're hungry. But it takes many different forms, and there's lots of different ways to fight hunger, and this was just one way where we could get involved and make an impact.
College students are one of those demographic groups that have definitely had trouble with feeding themselves on a budget and feeding themselves well. So I think it's really important that we learn those things as we're younger, so that when we come to live by ourselves and are independent, we can understand how to stretch our dollar the best we can.
A big thing I think with hunger at a soup kitchen is it's not just the physical hunger, but it's also that emotional hunger, to know that you're accepted somewhere and to know that you're not alone.
One of the biggest things I took away was a couple areas surrounding hunger that we don't really focus on a lot, and as college students or as young adults we do have the potential, specifically sort of how to address policymakers around this issue is something that maybe we don't really put as much attention towards as we could, and we really do have those resources available to us. And also the use of social media and how huge that is, and how much potential that has to help us along with eradication of hunger.